Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody, another amazing Spiritual Rockstar Podcast show. I've got an incredible guest here today. You just cannot believe what's going to come through. Do you want to learn about sales? Oh, I don't like sales. Well, I've got a guest here. We're going to talk about enrollment. We're going to talk about enrollment. Forget about sales for a moment, all right? How about enrollment? How about enrolling people in their highest potential, their highest good? That's what it's all about. Ultimately, I'm sure my guests will agree with that and talk about that amongst many other things that will help you to understand from a mindset perspective and a skills perspective how to manage yourself and how to bring yourself into enrollment and get more effective at it and have fun doing it, realizing it's actually what is wanting to happen. People want to be enrolled. Okay, people want to be enrolled, believe it or not. Yeah, we all get leave me alone. Yeah, right. Yeah, everybody says leave me alone. So they're like, oh, I'm so grateful you helped me to come into the program. So you want to really listen in deeply to this conversation. You're going to love it. If you feel triggered, then listen triply. All right. So Shawn, I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the awesome introduction. It's great to be here, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Awesome having you here. Shawn Marshall is an emotional resilience and leadership coach. He's coached thousands of people. He is one of the coach extraordinaires in the world, in my opinion, because he's just so connected, so tuned in. He's got so many skills and abilities as a coach, and he's translated those into enrollment. He does run a multi-six-figure coaching company and has mastered the art of having it all, which means he has a very full, beautiful life. This guy takes an hour to go hiking every day or whatever he does. I don't know, I don't know every detail, but I know him pretty well. And he's got a very full life. And so you definitely want to learn from somebody who's got a nice, thriving business. And quite frankly, this guy's lazy sometimes. Then he's like cranking it out. He's no excuses. We're going full out. He's got it all going for himself. So he's that kind of wonderful. So Shawn, I'm just so grateful to have you here.
Thank you, man. I thought it was important to add that in there about having it all, because I strategically put that sentence right after multi-six-figure business, because I've lived, and I'm sure people can, relate to this. Like, I've lived a life where I'd grinded and didn't have a life and worked all day, and it was like all about money and stuff like that. And I don't have that life anymore. I have that, and I don't love the word balance either, but some people would translate having it all to balance, and that's what it is. I'm, really focus my energy on having success in all areas of my life, and business success is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, a word I think resonates for both of us in our conversations in the past is, I kind of like the idea of a dynamic balance, because this balance just sounds like it's some static state. We got it all balanced out. Don't move. But a dynamic balance for me anyway means like we're constantly tuning in and kind of feeling into like where things want to go. And it's time to just let go of everything. Okay, whoa, it's time to, sprint. It's time to whatever. And everything has its place. And, we might go for 5 years of long meditation, and we got 5 years more in action or whatever. Like, it all has its perfect place. There's no dogma. There's no exact way your life's supposed to be. I don't know. That's how I look at it anyway. What's your take on that, Shawn?
Dude, I love what you said. I love dynamic balance. And then, like the definition that's always resonated with me is, it's not my own, but James Ray, he was in The Secret, years ago. I haven't heard anything from him since then, but I'm sure he's still out there. But he said, he said exactly what you said about balance, like static, there's nothing happening in a balance, and which that makes sense. And he compared it instead, he gave the analogy of a symphony. And a symphony, maybe at one point in the symphony, you have the horns like blasting out, and then, over here with the drums, maybe you have them a little lower. And then maybe down the road, the drums kick up and the horns kind of come down, but they're all still playing and it's still a beautiful harmony, but they're just all coming up at different volumes at different times. And then maybe at some point they're all playing together, but it's like you never lose the drums. The drums are always there, you know, and that's like that's the vision that I've always had when I think about having it all.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today. Wow. Yeah, it's a beautiful image. I like that. I like that vibe. Yeah, he just for fun to chat about it for a second. Probably most people know this, but yeah, he got in trouble. He had a retreat. People got a little too sweaty. People got hurt. People,
Oh,
I
that's
think,
right.
died and everything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so he and he admitted himself. He went to prison. He's out now, and he was back teaching again. The last I heard of him, which has been a few years, but yeah, he said, you know, his ego got in the way. You know, that's really what created that scenario is, and that's, you know, part of the reason why I'm about this spiritual rockstar platform. It's like our ego can easily get out of control, and we're like, I could do anything. I have people in these lodges, and maybe I don't know enough about it, but I'm acting like I do. And, you know, it's like we have to, so I'm grateful to him that to me, spiritual rock star too is like, hey, I screwed up. I recognize that now, and really having the courage to face people and say, yeah, this is what I learned through this experience. And I think it kind of is going to tie into our message today, because I actually know somebody that was right there in the beginning with him and creating that whole thing, being a part of it at least. She was a leader in it, and she just swears by him still to this day because he made such a difference in her life and so many people's lives. So to define someone's work or all their contribution based on what happened on one ugly day, which was just kind of negligence, really, it could happen to any of us. And we, you know, that's one of the beautiful things I love about you as a spiritual rock star, Shawn, is I've seen this happen with other people, you know, recently, one person really, but where you're like, hey, who are we to judge? You know, any of us could be out of integrity at some moment in time, or who knows, slip into something. And, you know, it's how you respond to that that really is what matters. It's not that, well, I became unconscious. Well, that happens to everybody. And that also is going to relate to as we get into talking about enrollment, but like any of us can slip. So I think I love that you're more open and embracing. I know you won't want to take any crap from people either and their lack of integrity, but also you have that other side where you're very compassionate and willing to try to listen and be more understanding. And that also comes into many levels of enrollment too. So
I love that, man. I didn't know that James Ray went to jail. So that's news. The last thing I heard about him was when that sweat lodge someone died or whatever. I have not heard a peep since then. So thanks for filling me in on the backstory on that. Yeah. And yeah, I think there's a time for I think I have like a great spectrum, at least access to the spectrum when it comes to coaching. I can be compassionate, and then I can go to the far end of that spectrum and be interruptive. Like I interrupted in my group call a few days ago. One of my clients was sitting there not speaking up, and it was like that's one of her big breakthroughs is to speak up and use her voice. And we got 80 minutes in, 10 minutes left, and this client finally raised her hand, and I just unleashed. I was like, this is bullshit. I hope I could cuss on here. If not,
okay.
I'll tailor it back a little bit. I was like, I feel ripped off. Like, you got so much to share and you're just sitting there silent. It's bullshit. And just, you know, kind of went off, and she kind of, but it's like, sometimes we need that, you know, sometimes we need a hug, and sometimes the hug comes in a form of a loud interruption, you know?
Right. Right. Well, that's, I think, the thing that we're talking about here is part of enrollment. Usually what the problem is in this field for the people listening in, who tend to be anyway, spiritual entrepreneurs, of course, or coaches, healers, and whatnot. It's like we've got the heart, right? So it's not like we don't have the love and the compassion. It's usually not anyway. usually that's not what the issue is. It's that you're not bringing the fire and the steel, the other dynamics that allows your sales typically to be better. Like everybody's different, everybody's different quantity. So I'm not saying it's a universal, but for the vast majority of it, 80-90% or more, we all do better being dynamic in our state of being too, like when it comes to everything, including enrollment. Is that right, Shawn? I'm preaching here what I should be asking you.
It's all good, man. Yeah. Let me say this. I think that, it's interesting later when you share the gift that I'm giving away, it's called like become a master enroller. But I want to stay inside of that. I do consider myself a master enroller. And also though, like speaking of being like humble, I know that if I'm not here right now, in the moment, I'm not a master enroller, right? It's like, what I mean by that is like, I'm not batting 100. I'm not enrolling every single client that I talk to. It might, and I don't know anybody that does, to be honest. But the reason I say that is like, if you can become really good at this, but the second that you think, or from speaking for myself, the second that I think I got it down, and then that's the phone call that I'm not present with that person. And that's the one that goes sideways. So I think that's a fun dynamic about enrollment. A fun truth about enrollment is that it forces you to get in your A game and stay there. And without being in your A game, if you get into your head, which is easy to do on a sales call or an enrollment call,
Right.
you can't serve somebody there.
Right. So people understand. I do think this would be a good question to ask you, talking about enrollment, sales, whatever we want to call it, is your background. Like I have a background in copier sales, like before I got into this whole industry, so to speak. So I had some sort of a background in sales. I wasn't very good, but I was very persistent. The best sales I always did were to the people employing me. Like man, I'm so good though. I'm planting all these seeds, all these sales are going to be popping. I'd make so many cold calls and make more cold calls than anybody in this office and all this stuff. And like, they just loved me because of my enthusiasm, my go get 'em attitude and everything. And, by the time I left, it was more like a joint agreement. Like, yeah, okay, it's probably time for you to finally get out of here. But I like outlasted almost everybody because it's a brutal business. And I was just very persistent. I got some sales. It's not like I didn't get any sales, but still like copier unless somebody is like in need is quite a trick. So I started with one of the harder things possible, and then I built my skills off of that. Ultimately when I got into this industry later, which is my own story. But tell us about your background. So that's like kind of my back. So I've got a background. Do you have a background? You've had other companies and whatnot, so you do have a background. So tell us about your background with sales in the past.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. Because I like when I think back through my life, I grew up in this era where it was like, if I asked my parents for something, they'd be like, instead of giving me money, they taught me how to go make my own money. And so as like literally a little kid, 9, 10 years old, all 4 seasons in Denver, I was knocking on doors enrolling my way into cutting grass and in the summer and like mowing or, raking leaves, shoveling snow. So it was natural for me when I was a kid. And then, man, something happened. Like, I grew up, went to the military, got out of the military, started a business. It wasn't a legal business. So there's this era of my life. And I was naturally gifted at sales through that period. I made a lot of money. And then when I had this big awakening, one of the things I realized is I was making a lot of my life like really focused on money and material and like ego. It was all about ego. And so overnight, man, I like walked away from a 6-figure business, started over, totally happy, joyful, free, like, oh my God, I figured out my life's purpose. I'm going to do it. But then I created this whole relationship with money that I never had before. And so I remember I got a sales job not too long after that, I had a bunch of friends that worked for 24-hour fitness. And so they were all sales guys. And so they got me a sales job at 24-hour fitness. And this, I haven't been in 24-hour fitness in years, and I don't believe it's the same as it used to be. But back in the like mid 2000s, it was that old school, like, sales environment, where, so like the way it would work is, a customer would come in, they'd sit there with the sales guy would put on this front, this whole fake spiel for an hour. And then the customer would walk out. And when the customer left the building, these guys would get up and high five each other. And the phrase is burned in my memory. They'd say, I took him or I took her for X amount of dollars. And that's how they would say it. I took him for $1,000. I took him. And I remember sitting there and just thinking like, dude, this is not okay. I can't sell like that. And I'm being trained by these guys, and this is how they're selling. I couldn't sell. And I was there for a whole summer. I don't think I made a single sale. Like, I sucked because this was the environment. And then to make it worse, two of the guys ended up becoming my roommates. And so I lived with two of them. And then so I'd be hanging around with these guys all the time. And they were just about like cutting people's heads off, So
wow.
that was sort of my upbringing in sales. And so when I started a business, I started a fitness company not too long after that. And then I had to learn how to sell. And it was difficult for me to sell. I had a hard time because in the back of my mind, now I had this gross memory of what sales was. So it took me a while to like, and man, we're talking 15 years. I think I'm pretty good at the craft. And still, when I think sales, there's still this like, kind of thing that I just notice is there. And I have to like pause and look at it, and then I can move through it, So that was my background. Just to sum it up, I sucked. I didn't like it, and now I do. So.
Right. Well, you didn't always suck. You're good. You're good earlier on, but there was like, but there was a certain kind of energy I got into with it, with that illegal business you were in. You're in a certain energy with it, and that got associated. Then, I took them for X, and like, so you had like all these negative associations, it sounds like, with sales in there. And it's like, well, I don't want to be like that now. I want to be the good guy now, or more, or whatever. I don't know exactly what your story was, but I don't want to be like that now. And it's like, it's sort of, sometimes, I don't know. So what was that like for you? Let me ask you then. So when you were struggling with sales at first with the fitness company that you developed, which you ended up creating into a successful business, 6-figure business.
Yeah.
So, but when you struggled at first, what literally were the thoughts you were having about sales that you were aware of? Like, what were you saying to yourself?
I mean, I think I went into those conversations with anxiousness, like really anxious. I really have to psych myself out. And I just sort of had this idea up front that they were going to say no. And I had this, and this was like a theme that's probably not connected to that. Maybe it was connected to something else. Like there was a definite point in my life where I wasn't authentic during that period especially during that period where I was running that illegal business. I wasn't being authentic, I was kind of living this secretive life. So maybe this like thread crept in there, but I had this conversation deep in my mind that was screaming like loud, you're a fraud. That's what I would think. And it was like, you're a fraud. And it was this voice following me around. You're a fraud. And I'm sitting here, dude, when I switched into fitness, running a fitness company, which I'm not in fitness anymore. For those who are just meeting me, I was in fitness for 15 years. And that was a childhood dream of mine. I worked with this trainer when I was in high school, and he literally changed my life. It literally was like, sent from the heavens, if you will. This dude placed a seed in my awareness around what it was like to actually care for somebody. And I remember walking out of this office with this trainer, just feeling cared for. And I was like, damn, I want to make people feel like that when I get older. So that's what I was doing. It was like a pure come from in fitness. It was like, I went from making 6 figures to no figures overnight with a mortgage payment. And I was as happy as I'd ever been. Was psyched. I was like, I get to help people with fitness. Like I wasn't even in shape, man, but I wasn't even in shape yet. And I was so passionate, But something happened, like when I got in front of them and I'm getting coaching. I had a sales coach at the time. So I'm like getting coaching, and then I go do a sale, and there was that like, you're a fraud in the back of my mind. And then my mind projected it out, and it made me believe that the person was thinking that as well. So I'm just sitting there waiting to like hear no, let me just throw it out there. So I know you're going to say no anyway. I wouldn't say that out loud, but like that was one of the inner dialogues that I can remember having with people.
You weren't really going, you weren't even doing any of the things to engage in sales fully, because you're like, well, I might as well just throw the offer out there. You want to come in, and then when they say no, or I think about it, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I understand. All right, or something like that. Is that along the lines, or?
That was it. I mean, it was like I'm following a script. I had a script from my guy that was training me on sales, and he was great. The team I had, they were great at sales. They had integrity. I'm still connected with these guys all these years later, and he's probably one of the more integral guys in that industry. So it was great. It was great training that they gave me, and they gave me these scripts. I followed the scripts. I'd like learn the process, but then it was just that inner dialogue of thinking that like if I'm following a script or a process, it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And my mind would tell me that the customer I'm sitting in front of was thinking the same thing. And so I'm sitting there thinking that they're thinking, oh, you're just following a process and a script right now. It was awkward. I made it awkward,
That makes sense. I mean, so that's when you're saying, I don't know if you said this, but like maybe you're feeling, of course, really inauthentic then, like, oh, I'm just kind of going through the script and this is what I'm supposed to say here. Well, how's your family going to think when you die, 20 years? Because you weren't working out, man. Like,
yeah.
how are they going to live? They need to depend on you, don't they? And like, who knows what's in that script? But some of those fitness guys' scripts are pretty. I'm not saying they put that in their script. But some of them got some doozies in there. That just
it's true.
I would think. It's funny. It works though for some people, right? They're like, "You're right. Oh my God, I better take care of myself." And so even then, it's not always so horrible. But yeah, for most people, it's a turnoff because I think these days, because it's like, listen, you're just trying to scare me into, signing up. So I think I won't, but it does work with some people. Are like, you're right, like it can cut both ways. Things like that, those scare tactics that a lot of enrollers use in the scripts. Like I've talked about this too. There's someone, again, I do still respect him a lot. I would still probably recommend him to certain people, but they do hardcore sales, or industry leader in sales out there, and they're like, okay, to get on the phone with one of their representatives. They're like, all right, just so you know, if you tell any stories today, I'm going to cut you off. Is that all right? All right, here. And it's probably not a bad idea, but it sounds pretty abrasive to me. That's like they're almost your first line. You barely even say hello, and you say that. And it's sort of establishing a power and control, which, that can be a good way to try, get people to, okay, whatever. Okay, I won't tell my stories. No, I get it, but it's there. And again, it could have turns other people off, but it's hardcore sales. It's a hardcore sales process. It works, but it also leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths. And also, I believe it can sort of traumatize people if you really do it really in a bad way. So I don't know, what's your take on, because I know you're being a master enroller, what does that mean to you? Does that mean being a hard, I'm assuming it's not this, but what do you think it means to you? Like being a master enroller, what do you mean when you say that? Is it hardcore? Man, you tell them to shut up and listen, basically indirectly, and man, you're going to get to the heart of this. You need this, baby, or you're going to have all these problems forever. And or is it something a little bit different than that? Is it totally different than that? I wonder what your take is.
Totally different than that. But let me say this too. I was getting this image where you were talking about those scripts and like that hardcore approach.
Yeah.
You ever listen to a song that is like the video is playing, but the lyrics or the words are like a little bit off, or a movie or whatever, they're just a little off, or sometimes the Bluetooth in the car is like that. Like there's a little disconnect.
Mhm.
And it's like, it messes up the whole song. You know, when the lyrics are off from the words, it screws the whole thing. And you can have a great TV script and you can have great lyrics and great music video, but when they're not together, it's ruined. And that's what I feel like those scripts, those like a hardcore script like that, or like you were talking about with the fitness industry. Well, what if you don't get in shape and you die? What's your wife going to do? And your 3-year-old? It's like, that actually could be a very good question. But if it's coming from a script instead of from like really being present to that being applicable to that person, it's not going to land. But that question could really, really get somebody into their body and into their heart and have them like really pause and say like, you're right, man, I've been procrastinating this for 10 years, you know, and then we really go somewhere. So I just want to say that I think it's about who we're being more so than what we're saying. And I think there's a context that you can create where you can ask people those type of hard questions, but it's heartfelt. So I want to land that. And then here's what enrollment means to me. Like, can it be like hardcore or whatever? Yeah, it can be. But the way that I view enrollment is enrolling people. I think of it as a win-win-win. And man, Daniel, I understand this could be semantics. You could swap the word sales for enrollment, and I just like the word enrollment, I guess. But I think it's a win-win-win. And what I mean by that is like, I'm enrolling the client into a possibility that's real and true to them, something that they deeply want. So that when I do that successfully, it's a win, because they've wanted to do, let's say they wanted to build a business for 10 years and they're holding back and they've been procrastinating and avoiding it. And, you know, maybe they're working a 9 to 5, they don't want to be there. If I can enroll them into that possibility and actually support them in like pulling the trigger and finding the courage to do it, man, that's a massive win. And so that's one win. And then the second win, it doesn't have to be in this order. It could be whatever order. Second win is for me. I am creating a win for myself because I have a business that I'm growing. I also have a vision. And so if I'm going to make an offer to a potential client, for me, what that means is they are a fit for me as a client. I'm a fit for them as a coach. And if I'm going to coach a client, they have to have a vision that aligns in some capacity to my vision. You know, I have a vision for the world. So if I'm going to coach somebody and they have a vision for the world, like I had a call today with a woman, and she works, is not in business yet, but she works at a university and she has this beautiful vision for the world. And I'm like, great. So if I can enroll her into my business, it's a win for me because I'm selfishly creating my vision. It's a win for me because I am making money. It's a win for her because she's going to make money as well and create this business that she wants. And then, so that's 2 wins, one for me, one for her. And the third win is then it's a win for other people outside of her. So like if she was married and she has children, let's say they're struggling financially, or they're struggling because maybe she's not really happy doing what she's doing, and she gets enrolled into her vision, and now she believes in herself and she's like, okay, I could go do this. I really can do this. I really believe it. I'm going to do it this time. And let's say she does it. Well, suddenly, you know, she's more enthusiastic. She's more joyful. She's going to be showing up differently with her family or her coworkers or her friends. So there's this ripple effect that's happening outside of her in her life. And then the obvious with that is once she creates her business and she starts coaching clients, she's creating a ripple effect in their life as well. So that's kind of the basis of how I think about enrollment. Is it's those 3 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the ripple effect, right? Big time. So, and okay, so now I'm going to come in and see where the bugaboos might be in this. I remember when I was a therapist, one of my old high school friends at the time, I told him what I was doing, and he's like, so people come to see you in your private practice. They come and they got all these problems, and then you sign them up to, you know, work with you. And so now they have all these other problems, and now you've created a financial burden for them. Is that what I'm hearing? Like, Like, you give them the financial burden on top of all their other problems. That's what you're basically doing then, huh? And he was just kind of kidding around, but he was like just being kind of a jerk, kind of messing with me at the same time. But it's funny, like something in it must be maybe a concern in my conscience. I've never forgotten that line. Like, so now you're just creating a financial burden for them and all that sort of thing. So, because it all sounds good, and then what comes up for the person enrolling and the person who's being enrolled is, yeah, it'd be all good, but the money, and money. So is it possible, Shawn, yeah, it's a win-win-win, but you're enriching yourself. You get making all these tons of dollars and everything. And it reminds me of like Crest Flow Dollar, if you guys know him, the minister. And he's got he wanted to have a private jet even. He wanted to go to the highest level and everything. He shut that down because everybody complained so much about the excess. I think we're calling excess at the time. He's like, all right, I'll back off on the private plane. Don't worry about it. But like, yeah, people who are getting really rich, having lots of money, they're talking possibilities, they're getting people on board, and but maybe they're delivering like 5 or 10% of their, if best, are getting the results, right? So is the integrity there? I don't know. I'm not saying you're that person. I'm just saying, like, is the integrity there? How much is it money motivated? When you're in there trying as a master enroller, what's your mindset around the money? Because that's what the bugaboo, that's the thing that trips people up the most in the enrollment process. Because I always tell people, forget about the money. So if you're thinking about money going in the enrollment process, it's gonna screw up your psychology. You got to be thinking about helping the person. Then we'll talk about the money at the end, and either it fits or doesn't. But for you, what's your mindset going into the an enrollment process with somebody where they are going to have to invest significantly?
Man, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think that, for one, it's not up to me. And I've seen coaches argue this like starkly in the other side of what I'm about to say, and that's fine. But my position is it's not my decision to make. Like, I can't make a decision for somebody around money. If somebody's up to their ears with debt and they decide to take this on, and they get resourceful and they figure it out, I'm not going to get in their way. Because for me, if it was reverse, and I personally, and you know this about me, I've put coaching on a card and then paid that card back. And I took a hit doing that. Like, one of the hits I took was I had an 800 credit score. And when I took on, and it took me years to build that, being intentional. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to shift coaches, level up. And then, well, fuck, that came with the leveling up of an investment as well. And I got resourceful. It was my decision. I went and got a card, which that's not the way I've operated throughout my life, but that's what I just chose to do. And I financed it and I paid it off. And that could have, I guess you could say it's possible that crushed me. And I ended up homeless, on the street, and forever. It could
have, Shawn. It could have. Oh my God! Safety! You could die.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's possible, and I'm sure that people. I mean, I've heard many stories of people buying stuff and then them being upset that they bought it or they didn't get what they wanted or whatever. But it's not. I don't want to make that call for somebody. I don't want to. And I also, if somebody tried to interrupt me, I'm flipping this to myself. If I'm about to give you money and I'm making an empowered decision and you attempt to like pull that off the table for me, the way I look at that is that you're looking at me like I'm not capable. And I don't want to be in the presence of somebody that looks at me and thinks that I'm not capable. I want to be in the presence of somebody that holds me as capable, So I hold my clients as capable as well. Like, we have all this energy on money, but we could have the same dialogue around the other scarce resource, which is time. Time and money are the two most scarce resources in people's minds. It's not true, but we could have the same conversation around time. And then what am I going to say? Well, you're too busy, therefore I'm not going to let you do my course. I mean, if you really want to come in and you're really committed to me being your coach, and I will prod a little bit, like, like if I have somebody and I think that, let's say we're getting really close to them enrolling, like we're really getting there. We had a deep conversation, maybe some tears came up. They're really connected to why they want to do this. I'll ask them questions that will give them a back door on purpose to test them. Like, I want to know that they're committed. Like, I don't want them to sign a contract. Like, that's not my goal. A lot of times I think new coaches or so, like, if we're not comfortable selling, like we're really trying to get to this contract, like sign this contract. And it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with the contract to me. I want to know that they're enrolled in their own vision and that they're ready to rock. And there's a way to get somebody power. And if they're in their power and they make a decision, my experience with them is they're going to figure it out. And that could look many different ways for many different people. You can have people that I have my group right now. Every single one of them that's in my group, they had a money breakthrough that they had to create just to get into the group. And it's the journey is going to be different. Some of them are going to have that breakthrough right away and then just like boom. Like, I think that's more along the lines of what I did. I had the breakthrough and I just like, I was like, okay, we got to go now because I don't want to go deeper in debt. Other people may go like that. And maybe they have a period where they struggle for a little bit, I don't know. I can't control how that journey is going to be for them. But I do know if they have a vision and if I can reconnect them to that vision and train somebody, teach somebody how to continuously connect themselves to their own vision, then they have like a gravitational force that can pull them forward and stay the course. And if it's bumpy for a little bit, I think that's a much better route than even if it was worst case scenario. Let's say somebody came in and it was like they tanked, they just tanked. They invested the money and they just tanked after that. And they didn't recover and they tried to start a business. They weren't cut out for it. And they went back to a 9-to-5 and it took them 10 years. I honestly would rather have that happen. I think anyway, that's a better option than living with the question mark of what if I would have done it? I think I'd rather live like knowing, like for sure, man, you know what? I tried it. I failed. It was tough. And if I can look in the mirror, which this is a big question too, if I could look in the mirror and say, honestly, I gave it my best effort and I still failed. I would rather have somebody say that than to think that I sold out on somebody and kind of pulled back a little bit and didn't cross them across that line. Right? Like thinking about living life and like ending up on your deathbed having regrets, like, man, I wish I would have, you fill in the blank. I'd rather know. Like, I failed. I'm not cut out for that. Got some debt now, rather than wondering. So
Right.
kind of several different angles there, but that's how I view that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I really love that. That's so great. I love that frame of, because one of the reasons why people don't want to sign up for a program, whatever it may be, as a coach, healer, or whatever, is I don't know. I mean, I assume I'll get great results. My intuition's even telling me I'll probably do well, but I don't know. It's the unknown. What I do know is I'm going to hand you all this money. That's what I do know. So that's what, that's where the mind goes. Like, all I know is and that could be a loss. That's a net loss then, because I'm handing this money over. And it's like, okay, seeing as you're afraid of the unknown, what if you don't do it and you won't know like what you missed out on? Like you didn't actually go after your approach is to talk to them about what do you want and their vision and everything. I know that about you through our conversation. So I know how you approach this. So when you're talking about that, if people are like, well, I don't know. Okay, you don't know. You don't know if you can actually have what you say you want unless you pursue it and go for it. And I'm here to help you with that. You're going to go for 100%, working with me or whatever you say. But like, at least that's my intention. That's what I'm going to call you to, blah, blah, blah. So all that stuff. So that we can utilize the trickster of the mind that's like, yeah, but we don't know. Okay, but you also don't know about this. So don't you want to, eliminate that uncertainty? So So we can utilize that to people's advantage to, okay, well, would you rather? Okay, I know, like, I got my money still and I'm still living the same damn life I had before. That doesn't sound too attractive to me
No.
personally. I got my money. Yeah, well, it's going to go to something else, it's going to go to, probably whatever, like therapy because you hate your job, or it's going to go to, a divorce or what. I don't know. I don't want to use the scare tactics, but it probably will go to those things. It's probably going to go to other crap that's not going to fulfill you as much as maybe anyway the opportunity that's in front of you to invest, or the person that's in front of you. We're talking to people who want to become master enrollers. Person that's in front of you, like, think about what they're going to lose if they don't take a chance. If you don't take a chance on yourself as a coach or a healer or a guide to them, you're all going to lose, right? We're all going to lose. Well, we just all say the same. Great. We'll just all say the same. Great. That's going to produce a lot of results, right? Why don't we?
Yeah.
So I love that part you talked about, working with that uncertainty in a way that is helpful to them. You don't want to be with uncertainty. That's why we need to give this attention, and I encourage you to go for it, but it's up to you, is what it sounds like, where you kind of take them.
Absolutely. Absolutely take them there. I think a master enroller, dude, like, we're not selling t-shirts,
Yeah.
we're not selling lattes. Like, if I sell you a latte or a t-shirt and you don't like the t-shirt, I don't have to face you ever. Right. I just sold you a t-shirt. The t-shirt sucks, and go on about your life. But if you're hiring me as a coach, I got to face you, man. I have to see you, right? I got to see you 3 times a week or 3 times a month rather, and I got you got a direct line to me. Like, a master enroller knows this, right? Like, I know I'm going to see you. I'm going to look you in the eyes. It's not just this call. I'm not selling you something into some program where there's 1,000 people and I'm never going to see you again. I'm the guy. You're going to see me tomorrow, right? And so I'm not even going to make an offer to somebody if I'm not 100% aligned in coaching them. If I'm not there, it's like there's like 3 buckets they're going to fit into. It's either they're clearly not a fit. And I had a call with somebody 3 days ago, and she wasn't a fit. It just wasn't a fit. So I didn't make an offer to her. And she asked me, how much does it cost? And blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know what? I don't see that it's a fit right now. I think that you need to go figure out this other piece first. And when you figure that out, call me back. But I'm not a fit for you until you figure that out. So that it's, they're either gonna fit there, or maybe they're fit, maybe not. And if they're not a fit, I'm probably much lower than most people with this, but to the end of a call and I'm still uncertain, then I'll schedule and I'll say, look, I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm the right fit for you or you're the right fit for me. So we take a few days. I'll usually give them some homework, do some writing. I'll do some meditating myself. Like, is this person a fit? And then we'll come back to the next call. And if I feel like they're a fit, then I'm making an offer.
You're good. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to be the guy that would put pretty much everybody on the spot. I mean, like, okay, you're not getting off the phone until you either sign up or you say no, I'd be more along those lines, and it's more towards, you better say yes. I know where you live. I can find you. I got psychic powers. No, I'm just joking. I was never like that. But no, it's more like, I come on, like, you got to say yes. You got to change your life. You got to have this. You got to have one of those. You're just going to love it. It's going to be the best thing ever. And, I just always be that guy. But then, and I was more that way too. Again, when I used to have more, I think it's the container of what you're selling. Like you said, like, we're not selling t-shirts. Well, currently, like, I'm not selling like some group program on manifestation, although who knows, maybe I will soon. Hey, how do you manifest this stuff? Okay, and I'm bringing 20 people. Okay, all right, well, I might be a little bit more like, hey, everybody, come on in, almost everybody. I might be a little less discriminating. Like, in my case, I'm doing high-level one-to-one with people, and I literally only want to work with X amount of people at this point in time there. And there's finite limits to how many clients I can have. So do I want to get on a enrollment call and just pound on somebody till they come in? Like, is that my perfect client? I don't think so, not usually. Although there are times when I have to take a stand for people anyway. Like, come on, I got to pound the table for them because I know there's alignment, but maybe they are just a little scared or they got their little resistances or whatever, like we all do. And you need to pound the table for them still. But there's going to be more a discriminating eye for me of who I'm going to choose to work for. I might throw the offer even out there because I already know, I'm putting out the energy in a way, like saying, like, yeah, I know this isn't for you. Yeah, sure, it's this, it's that. So what do you think? Nah, yeah, it's not a fit. Yeah, okay, yeah, I thought so. Okay, no problem. But yeah, it's a matter of people getting what it is that is in alignment. Like, what's in alignment for us? What's in alignment for them? Like, what is the alignment here? Is there alignment? But I think we also could make a mistake of giving up too soon, like most people do. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not liking this conversation. I don't, either they're a little too argumentative, or they're talking, they don't have money, and I don't like them. I don't like clients like that. I just want them to have the money, or they're saying they don't have time. They're arguing a little too hard on that. I think I'll just give up on them. And I think, we can definitely, I love your take on it. So I think we have to give it our full effort, often, even if they're not going to work with us. Like, I look at enrollment more as a service delivery as much as it is about getting them into a program or something. It's more like, I'm there to help you right here and right now. Yeah, okay, we might work more after today, but I'm working with you right now. And I believe that's your approach too. I basically do know that about you, Shawn, but is that how you see it as well? It's like, we're here to help you right now. And if you come in, great. If it's aligned, otherwise, no worries.
Yeah, and there's like two things there's like a distinction I want to make about that, because
Okay. Sure.
I did this early on and it's a disaster. And I have a client right now who's building a business and she's been doing this too. And they never enroll. And so the distinction that I want to make is that an enrollment call is not a coaching call. And when we want to go, from my experience anyway, and with my clients, what I notice is we're typically good at coaching, right? Like that's our bread and butter. Like that's why we got in this. We have a service-driven heart. We want to make a difference. And so it's really easy to slip into that default of being their coach, but
Right.
that's not what they need yet. In my perspective, they don't need a coach yet. They don't need a coach like to coach them through their problems, I should say. They do
Right.
need a coach, but it's like, if they came here and they have this big problem they want to solve, and you or I try and coach them through that problem to solve that problem, I don't actually serve them, because they may have an aha moment on that call, but then they don't have the structure and the support to back it up once that call ends. So like they have a light bulb and they're like, oh my God, I can do this now. And they hang up the call, and then like they wake up the next day and they're back in stuckness. So like there's the distinction that I want to make there, where I find that it's about service. And this is one example, but there's many of them. Is a lot of times I find I have a great call with somebody. We pull up all the stuff. We get clear on what they want. What's stopping you? What is it costing you that you're not, haven't pursued your dream yet or whatever? And then we get to the point where it's like, oh, great. Like, hey, I think this would be great for you. I'd love to be your coach. I'd love to invite you in. How does that sound? Yes, Shawn, that sounds good. Okay, so here's what I want to do. And then I make an offer to them. And for me, this is often where the call really starts, because they know at this point they want to work with me, unless they're just being nice. And so I'll ask them that most of the time. Like, are you leaning toward a yes, or are you leaning toward a no? I really just want to know, because I don't want to go farther if you're leaning toward a no and you're just being nice. So, okay, Shawn, no, I'm leaning toward this. I like this. It's a good fit. This is why. Okay, great. So here's what it's going to be. This is what the investment is. This is what the program is. And so many times after I share that information, then they're like, okay, great. Well, that sounds good. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll call you back tomorrow. Like, let me sleep on it, or let me check my bank account or something like that. And for me, that's where they really need me to show up for them, because the underlying way of being that I see that they're in, which doesn't work for what they want, is they're indecisive. They go into indecision. And I did this too, right? I did the same thing. So it's like, okay, you know what you want. There's a solution here, but now your fears and your normal operating system is kicking up what you always do. You always hesitate. You always get indecisive. You don't trust yourself. So like when to answer what you're saying, I'm going to coach them there. I'm going to coach them into, you know, in a very like non-embracive way, in a connected way. Well, what are you leaning toward? Are you leaning toward doing this or not? Like, it's not that I need you to tell me yes. It's that, like you said, Daniel, I want to show up for them. And if I let them leave and I know that I could have asked a better question, I'm going to be pissed at myself. So I'm going to ask them, like, are you leaning toward yes or no? Like, okay, you want to go look at your bank account? Great. Go look at your bank account. You should definitely go look at your bank account. And also, so I'm clear, are you leaning toward a yes or no? Like, in other words, like, can you afford it? You know, or do you think it's out of your reach? And I want to know. And it's not manipulation. You got to be careful, anyone listening. You could use that question and make it manipulative. And if you make it manipulative, you're going to feel gross and they're going to feel gross. But I'm asking from curiosity. Can you afford it or not? Well, and then they think about it. I enrolled a new client last week this exact way, and she thought about it, and she's a financial expert. So I said, you're a financial expert. You know your bank account better than I do. Can you afford it or not? And she thought about it and she said, yes. I was like, okay, so then, like, what else is in the way? You know, what else is in the way of you trusting yourself and let's go. And then she stopped and thought about it, and she had another thing that was in her way. So we talked about that. But like, that's really difficult for people to have that dialogue when that potential client is like, no, because I have to ask my spouse, or no, because of this, or no, because my dog just peed on the carpet, I got to go, like, whatever, you know, whatever it is. But I really feel like my experience, and this is how I feel too, about a coach who's going to be my coach. I don't want a coach who's going to buy, excuse my French, who's going to buy my bullshit. You know, if I'm going to bullshit you and you buy it, then you're also teaching me that you're not strong enough for my BS. And if you're not strong enough for my BS, I don't feel like you're going to be there for me once we go. And if I got, again, coming from my perspective, and I'm hiring you, I need to know that you have my back. I need to know that when I slip back into my normal ways, like you said in the beginning, I'm lazy, man. I have a tendency to be lazy. I want to put my feet up and not do anything. And if I have a coach who's not strong enough to pull me through that and call me out on it in up front, then you're not going to be strong enough to coach me. You know, I'm a strong coach. I need a strong coach, you know? Yeah. So in a way, this is a demonstration of how the relationship is going to be. So that's why I'm going to stand for my client, and I'm going to demonstrate for them that, hey, look, I feel like a little bit of wiggle room where it's like you're not being decisive. So like, what's that about? Sometimes I'll ask them that. There's a million ways I can approach that. But that's where, when you talk about coaching people on that call, that's where like, I feel like the coaching really comes in strong, and where I will coach them, and I'll coach them to a decision. And I found that most people in that situation, they'll throw up a few, got to go check this, got to go check that, got to go talk to my pet turtle, you know, got to go watch the news, got to talk to God, you know, all these things. And it's like, that's all great. But what I find is if I just keep being curious and being curious and being curious and asking clarifying questions, eventually they'll get to clear. And sometimes it's a yes and sometimes it's a no. And I'd rather than be a no than be an I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Be a real clear yes or no. Yeah. I do like that. I do like that. So outstanding. Well, we could talk this subject again for days and days, I'm sure. This is a good one. For two people that, you know, do enjoy the enrollment process and whatnot. So the reason why I love it is because I think there's so much BS that we're always dealing with. I always say, like, they always say nothing happens till the sale's made. And that's true. Like in your own life, like until you sell yourself on something, nothing's going to change. So it's the same thing when we're talking to someone else. Unless their consciousness changes and you help enroll them in the new idea, nothing's going to change until it happens somewhere. Take a stand for them, do something. So that's why I get excited about it. And yeah, I like supporting people and loving them and doing my work. And yeah, I love to make money, and I love to be supported and be able to do the things I want to do in my life. And and we need to embrace all of it. And that's what I'm seeing you're doing, Shawn. So that's awesome. So I would love for you, Shawn, to go ahead and tell them more about how they can learn more about it. Because I know you created like a little training or something for them, right?
I did. Yeah. I called it Becoming a Master Enroller. And I hit on 3 points and a few others. I kind of branch off of each of those points, but one of them I go into creating a win-win-win. I go into standing for people and what that means, because I think that a lot of times when we go into sales calls, we make it about ourselves. And the second we're making it about ourselves, like there's a toxic mentality that I see in the industry where people say, I need to go get a client, and they use that word get. And for me, when you use the word get and you're in transformation, you're making it all about yourself. And I always like to flip this. And if I'm going to hire you, if I heard you say to somebody else that you got me, man, I would be out. I would be out,
Yeah, I was just telling somebody the other day, I got Shawn Marshall as a client. Yeah.
I know. I just sent the charge back to the freaking bank account. I'm like, this guy is a joker, man. But I think that's a mistake that we make, is that we make it about ourselves. And especially when somebody risked it all and they're like, I'm quitting my job, I'm going all in, and then they got to eat and put food on the table. And there's a very fine line between going and getting a client and going and being in service and enrolling somebody. So I talk a little bit about that. And then, as much as I hate the word objections, I talk about objections and like the relationship. We already talked about it here, but like we have a relationship with somebody's objection. And if you have a negative relationship with that objection, or you take it personal, you think it's about you, they're rejecting you or they're objecting to you, then you're going to shut down, and you're not going to be strong enough to get through and walk them through that. So I talk a little bit about that as well. So it's called Becoming a Master Enroller. And they can grab that. It's an audio training that they can listen to.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. And so highly recommend it. I mean, just listen to Shawn. I mean, today, didn't you feel like this was nourishing? This was helpful, right? So I know I found it nourishing. If you could find even 1 or 2 tips to help you with enrollment, that's always worth it, right? That's why I take some sales training sometimes, because even though I probably heard most everything before, there'll be like, even with Shawn today, when he said, yeah, but what about, the risk of like not going for it? And it's not like I've never heard that idea before, but I'm like, oh, I haven't really been thinking that way exactly lately, and that's strong of terms. And, so like if you can even get one thing, like it could really be a game changer for you. So definitely check it out. We'll put the link in the show notes. And totally. I totally endorse Shawn Marshall for everything, Master Enroller stuff. And, and I'm not just saying that because I love the guy, but because he really is that good. He's really a righteous dude, and he's tremendous at helping people as a coach and everything and transformation. So definitely everything Shawn Marshall, go for it. All right. So, okay, Shawn. So, all right. So let's go ahead. And I do a couple of tune-ins with my guests at the end of the show. Don't want to rip you off and not give it to you. So we're going to give you some tune-ins today.
All right, man.
Ready?
Let's go.
All right. All right. So let's see what's coming through for you today. Yeah. Okay. So immediately what comes in, and it's something we've been talking about, but I see, but not maybe in these exact terms. I'm hearing training center. So, it's interesting that it's showing up as a feeling of physical, perhaps, maybe not, but perhaps even physical locations of, could be like teams of coaches gathering around, supporting each other, and they're working together in an environment together in person, but maybe they're serving online, but they're coming together in person. So who knows? Maybe it's a seed idea, maybe it's something there, maybe there isn't. But I'm getting that as you go into that, training coaches and bringing coaches up. Something like this might want to drop in. So I'm just putting the seed idea out there. Okay, let's see what's next. Yeah, they're showing me the jungle and you out there kind of, going through there, maybe with a machete or something, cutting the stuff out of the way. And, you know, um, perhaps, you take people out, I haven't heard you doing that yet. Taking people out into nature and the jungle and different places and having them, hey, we're going to hike up this mountain in the jungle and or like these physical kind of challenges, and then like what did they learn from that journey. And so you're doing lots of coaching, but there's also some physical components and putting them in environments that contribute to their embodied awakening or whatever, however you want to put it. But anyway, so that's something coming through that could be really cool to fold into your services. Yeah, just with the money, it's coming through like what do they call it, daddy warbucks or whatever. The war word may not resonate for people, but like just being like, yeah, like I want to embody like having like the sense of a significantly big enterprise, and I'm kind of the spokesman and chairman of it, and things are operating and increasingly like I have my hands off of it. And I would see this not happening overnight. Obviously, this would be probably over a lifetime where we got to that level, and just the massive wealth, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and to embrace this level of the vision. Because you're good with an expanded vision to a point, but they're saying, no, you could, go way past that, And all right, so that's just something I'm pointing to today. All right, so I just wanted to share a few downloads with you, Shawn. Any quick thoughts or about what came through?
Well, I was born in a jungle, so that's interesting.
It makes sense, right? I guess. Yeah, I forgot about that for a moment, but yeah.
Yeah, I was. And yeah, there's definitely a component. That's, when I ran my fitness company, I never went indoors. We were outside year round. And that was one of the initial seeds that started, that fueled that passion, was wanting to be outside and wanting to do adventures. And so that's how I live my life. And so I can definitely see that being part of what I do with this. And then, yeah, it's interesting, man. I was thinking yesterday, this question, and if I don't know when this interview is going to go out, but if it goes out, happens to go out soon. If not, you can write me, whoever's listening. But I have a message going out this week to my audience about this exact thing that, I got this message yesterday that said $1 million business, and money isn't the primary goal. It's not what inspires me. And there's a message going out this week about that as well, that when I switch my goals to just showing up, my main goal, I have my vision, but I have part of my main goal and operating system is I want to show up fully, because that's when I can look in the mirror at myself and be like, dude, you did a great job today, And so I got to thinking, like, $1 million business dropped in, and then the question of, well, what would have to happen from me in order to create that business, $1 million year? What would have to happen? So that question came up yesterday while I was out on a walk, and I did a meditation around that this morning, and then I wrote in my blog about that. So that's going out this week. But yeah, it's interesting that came up for you as well. And I think we all have a next level that we're stepping into, and mine is definitely training coaches and building a team that can support me in delivering my group program, Inner Game Mastery, to other people. So yeah, that's in the cards. That's all in the cards.
It's all there. It's all coming together. All right, awesome. Okay, great. So everybody, if you want to check me out, go to yoursacredpurpose.com. You can take advantage of my Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation, but only if you're ready to rock, because I'm looking for the top dogs out there that are on the rise, are already, successful in their business, that want to rock it out. So check it out. I'm going to be tuning into you. I'm going to be getting these downloads, and we're going to go through a process of helping you to dial in your business. As I look at your energy and what's going on in your business, we're going to dial in the energy for it. I'm going to take a stand for what your greatness as well. It's something that Shawn does all the time. But anyway, I'm starting to think about Shawn a lot here. Anyway, slightly distracted, Shawn. You're so awesome. All right. So, okay. Don't usually talk like this. All right. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, check it out. I just so inspired to help you guys. If you really have a big mission, if you have a big vision, someone like Shawn here, like that wants to rock it out. I can see it in your soul, and you feel it in your soul. I want to come together for you to help you through this Rock Your Sacred Purpose energy scan consultation and more if it's a fit. So you do have to invest in it. It's not like one of these freebies. You just jump on a call and all that stuff. No, we're getting into it. It's going to be for real, going to help you get some real value and help you start moving forward. All right. And also, if you go out to my website, there's the Meditate, Make Money meditation. So that opens up your energy and your chakras and helps you start getting connected to the energy of money in a way that's so powerful and connected. That allows the opportunities to just start to show up. Your consciousness just kind of awakens to the opportunities that are already here. So check that out as well. You can get that for free, the Meditate, Make Money meditation at yoursacredpurpose.com. Start making money the easy way. Meditate to make money. All right. So Shawn, as we're starting to wrap up, any last words of wisdom?
I think everyone has heard this a million times, but in some variation. But what comes to me right now is lean into your resistance. Like that, your next breakthrough for everybody listening is hiding behind that which you're resisting. So if you're resisting enrollment and sales, well, the next level of delivery of you as the rock star coach and healer that you are, it's hiding behind that which you're resisting. So lean in. There's magic that's waiting for you behind your resistance.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we keep running from the resistance, and what happens? The same old shit. So I love that one, Shawn. It's so fun to have you on the show. I look forward to having you on sometime again, or maybe soon. We'll see sometime in the near future. Yeah, first time I got kind of flabbergasted at the end, losing my wording there. So I just really love you, brother.
Thanks, brother. I love you as well, man. I love being on. I appreciate you. You made a massive difference in my life. And, you, for those listening, and you can hear me just say this directly to Daniel, but, you're the real deal, man. You show up and you stay consistent, you stay in your power. And that's such a gift, man. So thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. And, thanks for who you be.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. So great to have you here today. And like I always say, keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time.
Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.